Hey y'all, it's Laura, and welcome back to a new series called Budget Scrapbooking. And the way this series is going to work is we're going to explore some low-cost options for scrapbooking. And for me, that means picking a 12 by 12 paper pad. I'm going to be using this one, which is Paige Evans Whimsical, because it has a lot of icons, a nice bright open color scheme, and cut aparts in the paper pad. Now, what are we going to be doing? We're going to be making some DIY embellishments from this paper pad and then scrapping with them. So putting together a small kit and then creating 4 to 5 layouts with that kit. And let's head over to the desk to see what we're going to be working on today.
So for today's project, we are going to go ahead and start making layouts. In the month of November, we're going to be using this beautiful little kit that I put together with our DIY embellishments. If you haven't seen those, I will link the playlist at the very end, and you can go check out all of the embellishments that I made for this kit. And we're just going to be diving right in with some layouts this month. Now, I will tell you, kind of a funny thing that I have discovered. I have recently moved into a new house, and so trying to get my lighting correct and to my standards for filming has been a challenge. And one of those challenges is illustrated in this video. The little bit of movement you might be able to see on the screen is the ceiling fan behind me. And I didn't realize that you could see the little fan blades moving when I was filming, and it is so frustrating. So don't mind the fan blades. We're just gonna dive in with these really cute pictures from our road trip to Michigan last November. And I just ask that you bear with me on the lighting for the next few videos as I sort out the best way to work with my new space, because it is a very different setup. So these two photos are from our road trip in November to Michigan, and it's a long trip. It was from our old house. It was roughly 16 hours, give or take, and it's a very, very long trip. But we had a good time. We broke it up over 2 days, and the kids did really, really well. Now, I should mention that my twins in particular had not really been out of the house much outside of school since COVID at this point. And so for 2 years, we had kind of really stayed home as much as possible. We hadn't really gone out and seen a lot of friends and family or anything like that. We definitely hadn't taken any trips, and we weren't even really eating in restaurants at this point. And it was interesting for me to take everybody out, and then we kind of have to eat at restaurants, and you kind of have to adapt to seeing a bunch of different people in a different place. And it was a very eye-opening experience for me to realize that we had been so confined, that we had stayed in so much, that the girls especially had forgotten how, eating in restaurants worked. We would go get like takeaway and things like that occasionally, but mostly we were eating at home. And so I think this was a really good experience for us, even though it was challenging at first. So even on this road trip, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of challenges, staying in hotel rooms and things like that, which were something the girls had never done before. And so that had its own challenges, but it kind of opened my eyes to the fact that we had really locked ourselves away in a very big way, in a way that had impacted the kids. And so I made sure over the course of the rest of this year, so the beginning of this year, to kind of change that for us and kind of rearrange our lives a little bit. As part of why we moved, is to kind of get us out of this rut of, staying at home. Where we lived previously in North Mississippi, there really wasn't a lot to do that engaged the kids, and particularly my twins. And so it was really important to me that we find a place that was going to be good for us long term and was going to have a lot of things to do for myself and the girls in the long term. And so that is where we are now, and I'm very happy about it. We're doing really well. We are going out and doing a lot of different things. The kids are involved in a lot of things with school that they hadn't been previous. There's a lot of opportunities for the twins who are autistic to step out of their comfort zone as well, which we are loving. I am not sure how my schedule is going to be as far as uploading. So if you've noticed, it's been a little unusual or a little long stretches of no uploading. I do apologize, but that is because I'm just trying to figure out our schedule here and making priorities happen. And scrapbooking has always been and always will be my hobby. It is not my job. I upload these videos for fun because I enjoy it. And so if I need to take a couple weeks off from scrapbooking or from voiceovering and posting, I will, and I do. Just for my own mental health, just for my own focus on bigger priorities at the moment, which is largely my kids. And that's exactly what I do. That's just what I have to do. And this layout, I decided to go in a little different path. So for this layout, I went with a horizontal layout. And I'm not one that leans into horizontal design super often. I do it often enough that it is definitely a go-to. It's an easy background to put together. However, it's not one that I immediately think of and sometimes have to remind myself to use, particularly when I have horizontal photos like these two landscape 3x4 photos work really well in a landscape or horizontal design. And I love the way that this layout came out, but it definitely took a little bit of brain power to get there and to kind of see the ideas come together. There was a lot of different ideas that I was trying to make work, and what I end up with in the end is very good. I really like the way it turned out, but it took a while to get there. And it was just the small details that I couldn't quite sort out. So these are some little clusters I've been playing around with here. I've made some small clusters in this series, and I am trying to get at least one onto each layout that I make this month. And I'm also bringing in my beautiful fussy cut bits and pieces, which is in this little tray on the left side. You'll notice I have a whole array of florals on the left side of this block of paper. And part of the reason that I didn't just take the paper all the way across is because this beautiful section in the middle, I didn't have a big enough piece of that to go all the way across. So I'm kind of filling in bits and pieces. So filling in space that was left open with florals. And that is a little trick that you can use if you're not sure how much paper you have, or if you're trying to put together a layout and you're like, oh, I've had these gaps. Fill them in with florals or with some very generic sort of stars, hearts, that sort of thing. Sometimes that can help you move past a tricky part on your layout. And even if you don't decide to keep them long term or glue them down on the page, sometimes that can help your mental block and your fixation on that one area is just kind of fill it in with a few things as an audition, as an idea, so that you can move on to something else. Because I know that slows me down in a big way if I have a gap that I just can't fill. I just can't figure out how to fill that gap. That is something my brain is just going to keep circulating around. It's something that my eye's going to keep going to on the layout, and I'm just going to keep going back and forth to it. So in this layout, you might be able to see that I'm adding some beautiful little clouds on the right side that kind of reflect the florals on the left. Did I need to add these? No, not necessarily, but I did kind of want to get them on the page because I thought they made sense with this driving layout. Pretty much all you can see is the sky and the streets outside. So it kind of made sense in my head to go ahead and add in these little clouds, just kind of an homage to what we could see through the windows. Now I am going to do a little bit of outlining here of my layers. I do this quite a lot with a black gel ink pen, just because it gives a little bit of a shadowed effect and makes everything look a little bit more 3D. It also helps to separate the layers. So in this case, all of my photos are backed with a bit of pattern paper. and then we have a bold pattern paper behind the photos. And so by adding this line in between them, so around the photos themselves, I'm allowing that layer to stand out and have a little bit more definition, which helps it pop a little bit more on that very busy background. Now I am coming in with some butterflies. I wanted to add a little bit of movement to the page, but this also helps to push that busy background pattern paper into the background. So having a few things that feel a little bit more interactive, things like the defined photos, things like a bold title, that love down there stands out quite well, and having these little clouds that not only overlap on top of the journaling spot, but also on top of the pattern paper, help to push that busy pattern further back into the background so that it doesn't draw quite as much attention to itself. And this was something that I purposefully wanted to do with this layout. I wanted to play with a very busy background paper and show you how you can make it work for you, how you can make it sit back in the background and not draw all of the attention away from the photos and from all of the beautiful bits and pieces I've added on top of the photos. Now these lovely little butterflies, I will come in and do some little butterfly trails using Nuvo drops. That is a pretty common technique for me. I think it adds some really fun energy and movement to the layout. And for me, it really gives a finishing touch to have this scattering and splattering effect at the end. For the scattering, I had some of these little butterflies. I also had some teeny tiny florals that I spread around the page, as well as some little faux wood veneer stars that we made in our embellishment side of this collection, of this series. Be sure to check that out at the end of the video if you've missed any of the videos so far, and we're hoping to finish this one up in November. This is my Heidi Swap Gold color shine that someone shared with me, and I am very, very happy to have it. So I am using it on every single layout until it's gone. And that's it for this one, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. But until next time, bye y'all.